Listen closely. Somewhere right now, a boy with empty pockets is standing at the edge of a crowded street, and no one notices him. People pass by, cars rush past, laughter fills the air. But what they don't realize is this: the future is already bending toward him, because while his pockets are empty, his mind is dangerously full. Edrin Vale grew up with nothing that looked like opportunity. No safety net. No connections. No money. Just a small, fragile home made of cracked wood and rusted metal, and a mother who worked herself thin to keep them alive. Hunger was not a surprise in his life. It was a routine. Some days, food was a luxury. Other days, it was hope that kept him going. But even as a child, Edrin carried a thought that refused to leave him. A belief that whispered, even when the world shouted the opposite. This is not where my story ends. Every morning, he walked through streets lined with buildings he did not own, businesses he did not belong to, lives that felt impossibly distant. And yet, instead of feeling defeated, he felt curious. He studied how people talked, how shop owners made decisions, how money moved from hand to hand. While others saw walls, Edrin saw systems. At night, when the lights went out and the city quieted, he stared at the ceiling and imagined a different life. Not an easy life. A bigger one. A life where his name mattered. Where his voice was heard. Where he could choose instead of beg. His mother once asked him why he always seemed lost in thought. He answered, "I'm planning my future." She smiled with tired eyes and said, "Dreams don't fill empty pockets." Edrin replied softly, "But they show you how to fill them." School wasn't forgiving. His clothes were worn. His shoes were broken. Other students laughed. Teachers expected little. But Edrin listened carefully. He absorbed everything. He read anything he could get his hands on. Old papers. Torn books. Scraps of information others threw away. Knowledge became his quiet rebellion. As a teenager, he worked whatever jobs he could find. Carrying loads. Cleaning floors. Running errands. The pay was small, but the lessons were big. He watched how effort turned into income. How mistakes turned into loss. How discipline created progress. One day, a shop owner asked him why he always looked so serious. Edrin said, "Because I'm building something." The man laughed. "With pockets like yours," Edrin smiled. For now. Life tested him early. He tried small ideas that failed. He trusted people who disappeared. Lost money he could barely afford to lose. There were nights when doubt sat beside him like a shadow, whispering that he was foolish for thinking big in a small world. But every time fear crept in, Edrin reminded himself of one truth. Thinking small would not protect him, it would trap him. He began saving tiny amounts of money, not because it was enough, but because it trained his discipline. He invested in learning. He asked uncomfortable questions. He stayed patient while others rushed, while people waited for luck. Edrin prepared for opportunity. Years passed, slowly. His mindset changed from survival to strategy. He stopped asking how to get by and started asking how to grow. When an opportunity appeared, small and risky, most people ignored it. Edrin leaned in. He invested everything he had, and it nearly destroyed him. The venture struggled. Bills piled up. Pressure mounted. Friends told him to quit. His mother worried he was chasing illusions. One night, sitting alone in the dark, Edrin stared at his empty pockets again. The same emptiness from years before, the same silence. He asked himself, "Did I think too big?" Then he answered, "No, I just haven't become big enough yet." Instead of quitting, he adjusted. He learned from every mistake. He worked harder and smarter. He refused to let temporary failure define his identity. Slowly, results began to shift. Small wins appeared. Momentum followed. People who once laughed now watched. Opportunities multiplied. Edrin reinvested relentlessly. He stayed humble, but hungry, focused, but fearless. One day, he stood in front of a building with his name on it, the same kind of place he once stared at as a barefoot boy. His pockets were no longer empty, but more importantly, His thinking had rewritten his destiny. When someone asked how he escaped poverty, Adrian said, "I didn't escape it with money. I escaped it by refusing to think like it." He returned to his old neighborhood and spoke to young people, who reminded him of himself. He told them the truth. That life isn't fair. That excuses are easy. That thinking small feels safe but costs you everything. He said, "Your situation is not your future. Your thoughts shape your direction long before your actions show results. If you think small, life will shrink you. If you think big, life will force you to grow." Adrian Vale proved something powerful. Empty pockets do not mean an empty destiny. Where you start does not decide where you finish. The size of your life will always reflect the size of your thinking. So think bigger, dream louder, work harder, and never let where you are silence where you are meant to be. If this story inspired you, don't keep it to yourself. Like the video, share it with someone who needs this message, and subscribe to the channel. Because stories like this don't just motivate, they awaken what's already inside you.